Well, together we're strong for life and land. This is Raiffeisen Bank's motto. And this is actually very close to our own mission statement. Almost nobody knows the Raiffeisen markets of the Agravis Group, but Agravis is doing much more, and whatever they do involves invoices. If you want to find out how Agravis manages to handle more than 1 million incoming invoices and process them digitally, if you want to find out, listen carefully in the next 25 minutes. Welcome to the d.velop Forum 2021. Matthias Wessel and Sven Sicking-Röttger from d.velop are on stage. Thank you very much for the friendly introduction. My name is Matthias Wessel. I'm from the Raiffeisen AG, and I'm working in the IT area. And I was obliged, I don't know, to be in charge of the project and accompany the project that is digital processing of incoming invoices. And Sven Sicking-Röttger is my name. I've been SAP consultant and project manager for 15 years, and I was the counterpart on d.velop's side for Matthias. And if you don't know who Agravis is, we brought along a small video so that you know what we are doing. As a system-relevant company from the region, we are a basic provider for people in rural areas. The agriculture, high-quality food are closely intertwined. Modern agriculture for us as Agravis means customer-oriented and sustainable work. The economic benefit, the well-being of animals are dear to our heart, as are quality and safety of our products and services. With our innovative feeding concepts, we are strengthening the agricultural value chain and save natural resources. We know about our responsibility. We like to invest day by day into the trust we get from our customers. We are part of progress and work towards sustainable agriculture. As an agriculture and service provider, we organize, on the basis of our network, a perfect coordination of cooperatives and farming. Especially in the course of digitization and dynamic market changes, we are very closely tied to the thought of cooperative acting. Trust, mutual respect and loyalty to our partners and customers are guiding our daily work and make us strong.
Gemeinsam stark.
Together we're strong for our land and for the life. Agravis Raiffeisen AG. Exactly. Now that we know what Agravis is doing, we can go into medias res. I will tell you something about the Agravis strategy, the IT strategy, as it were. At the moment, we have got 3 major ERP MMS systems for different areas, plus SAP accounting. That causes complication. We always have to handle 3 systems. There was a tax change last year, remember. You have to coordinate the whole thing. You have to organize things in order to combine combine it in the systems. And we want to move away from it. It's always nice to have a work chart and change things on paper, but it's tough work. It costs an awful lot in order to harmonize systems. And where do you want to go? We want to have one uniform ERP system where all areas of Agravis are integrated, including bookkeeping, in order to enjoy all the benefits, streamlining, pooling, harmonization. Now, for those who love data, we do not want to have different data. We want to have the same data. We want to have one single data pool where everything is included. And for this purpose, of course, we need to act. What does it mean to our electronic incoming invoice processing? Let us break it down. All formats that are existing for invoices, Zugford, then mail, where the PDF documents are attached, post have to be accepted, stored in the recognition system. There has to be audit proofness as well, whatever there is, wherever there is a tax relevance, and later on we want to transmit them to our big SAP system, where either automated approvals can happen, because everything is included in the invoice, the order numbers, gross, net amounts, everything is matching and can be settled. If it's not matching, it needs to be matched, and something else needs to be approved, and this has to be over hierarchical. So people at the desktop should be able to give the approval, or while they are somewhere in the car, they can use their mobile phones or tablets and initiate the approval. And below that, the IT system, everything is to be archived so that 10, 20 years later, you can always retrieve the document and say, this is the invoice, and this is exactly the way the invoice was approved 20 years ago. This is our big goal we work towards. Right. In order to reach that goal, we use 3 services from d.velop. The services we used. Now, when you look at the process or the course of a document, an invoice, for example, and follow it. So, for example, you have the account controller, and I think you had 175 post boxes that are still being read out, and the content crawler then passes the document to the invoice reader that extracts information, and the extracted information then led to SAP via the ERP connector. In SAP, you have the invoice for SAP. It is an add-on to SAP, and with Agravis, it is up and running. And with our archive link, the standard interface ends up, and our archive link server, the access to the D3 system can then be guaranteed. It's important to mention a few add-on which we also used during the project and brought it to maturity. I'll come back to this later on. 3 of the services are to be presented here. The document reader invoice on the one hand. This is what Matthias is going to talk about later on. And I would like to talk about invoice for SAP, AIT, and Furiate. Exactly. I talked about our strategy. I said that somewhen in the next years we'll all be on SAP. But it also means we've got a hybrid scenario. What does it mean? We'll have a new world, but we'll also have the legacy world. These 2 worlds have to be operated. And the document reader invoice helps us to do so. Namely that those 2 worlds are catered for in a hybrid scenario. What does it mean? We still have one incoming channel. All our account numbers can be integrated on one platform, document reader invoice, and the format which is needed for the different MMS systems can be transmitted there. Cost accounting booked in SAP, and the merchandise billing is handled in the different merchandise management system. What's exciting here is that every system's got its individual interface. We cannot just build on things or copy in inverted commas from some system. Each interface did have to be newly programmed so that the information needed by the MMS systems is available in the format and the quality that is required. And we managed to do so. We were successful. Exactly. The invoice for SAP ERP is based on the Classifier Platform. Now, if you remember what I just said a minute ago, after the document has been read out from the mailboxes, it goes via the document reader to SAP. On the SAP, we run the Classifier Platform. The invoice for SAP ERP is part of the Classifier Platform. If you follow the platform thought, you see that it's not only one thing that's running on that platform, but the incoming documents, various incoming documents can be read out, order to cash, incoming customer orders, or travel expenses which need to be settled. And what we use with Agravis as well is the purchase-to-pay processing. In the purchase-to-pay process, it is not only incoming invoices that are being processed, but finally, the whole thing started off with requests for order, which are triggered via the system and can be administered and managed by it as well. And at some point in time, the request for orders will lead to orders and finally to order confirmation for the supplier. They will be read out here as well and will be automatically allocated to the orders. And then, hopefully, the merchandise will arrive. Once it has arrived, we'll process the notes of delivery via the document reader and also via the classifier, because the classifier can also handle incoming notes of delivery and enter the merchandise. The core topic here is the incoming invoice. Such a platform has got different functionalities. So one is the workflow engine or the workflow component that is existing here, which can be used for all incoming documents. In this case, the workflow is mainly used for the proper allocation of the bookkeeper and the person who is verifying and then can approve if this is necessary. With Agravis, we've got 1,400 users that come into play, and here it is necessary to keep the approval process as simple as possible. So follow simple rules and not make it too complicated. You'll not manage to do so for 1 million invoices to do justice to everybody with his or her requirements regarding approval. In the Classifier Platform, we've got a cockpit. In the cockpit, you can see all the incoming documents. The invoices can be seen here. We were working on invoices only in the project, but we do not only see the invoices that are entered in SAP later on, but all the invoices that run through Ramos, Gavis, and Iris, the other the systems as well, are integrated in this cockpit as well, so that for all SAP ERP systems, we've got an overview of the invoices that are circulating and what their status is. It offers more. We've got auto account allocation. We're using incoming documents with Agravis, and wherever it makes sense, they are automatically allocated. Nobody has to sit down in order to allocate those invoices. We can process invoices with a reference to an order and without. We can trigger a business partner process and so forth. There's one topic that was directly linked to the Classifier Platform, the URI add-on. In the framework of the project, we developed a Fury app. We started a bit earlier, actually, and we brought it to maturity whilst we were working on the project. And it's a native Fury app. And as Matthias put it, it's the genuine Fury. It's not embedded in SAP transactions. No, it is a native Fury app. Via the Fury app, well, it doesn't store data. It does not have its own logic. It is based on the Classifier Platform. All documents that are produced in the invoicing process in the Classifier Platform are then available in the Fury app for approval, for example. The user himself will always have a possibility to think as to whether he wants to go via Subway or Fury app. It is important to note that we decided to only handle the approval and audit steps via that. So if as a bookkeeper I have to process a voucher, I have to go in Subway, or I will then integrate the transaction in the Fury app. Why only for audit and approval, or verification and approval? The reason is it has to be intuitive and simple because we've got so many users. And for the bookkeeper, it is not necessary. And the cases that bookkeeper has to process are so numerous. And this is why we decided to make sure that only the verification, validation, and approval steps are integrated and implemented in the Fury app. The Fury app itself is Invoice compatible. In the Fury Launchback, we've got the Invoice app. The vouchers can be integrated in the Fury app, and via the Invoice, which is used, the vouchers can be further processed. Mobile devices can be used, so I can also process them on my desktop computer, on the iPad, but I can also use it on my smartphone. It is a responsive design that comes along. Whether it is meaningful to process a invoice while you're sitting on the beach with your smartphone, but this is a different kettle of fish. The app can be individually adjusted, where customized you can predefine what the user should see and in which sequence he or she is to see what. And this cannot only be predefined, but the user himself can also make adjustments himself or herself and then make available layouts. What does it look like? Now, when you look at the Fury app, you see you've got the typical live tile from the Fury Launchpad, and you see there are 4 vouchers or slips to be processed. When I click on them, you see that I've got my 4 incoming invoices with a few pieces of information. They are presented here, and you can make adjustments as well. So I enter into the details of the slip, and here I will see the information of the invoice, basic data. On the right-hand side, you see the document, the invoice proper. I could enlarge it, or I could have as a full picture or as a separate picture. And at the bottom, with a cost accounting, you see the cost account allocation. I try to approve validate the voucher, and you see that from the backend, I get the information. I can't release it, because when you click on that message, you see there is no quantity. I've got an invoice here for car fuel, and the quantity, the volume has to be indicated so that I can allocate the account. What can I do? Well, I click on processing. I switch to the box where I can enter the quantity. Let's say it's 100 liters of diesel. I check it again, store it, save it, and then the data will be directly transmitted to SAP. There's no separate data storage in Fury app. It's always data from SAP. And now I try to release the slip again. Once again, I have to confirm the release, and what's happening. It goes through all the verifications that otherwise happen on the back end, and now the invoice is approved and released. After the clearance, I see there are only 3 vouchers left for processing in my inbox. And once I've done that, nothing would be left in the inbox. Okay. Now, there are always customer requirements. What do we want to achieve? What do we want to do with our electronic invoice processing? Of course, we want to start automation. Invoices have to come in, and if everything is completely right, they have to go through the overnight process in the system. The transition scenario, we have a hybrid scenario, which we still need to support all electronic invoice formats, Zugfert, X-invoice, Factor, XPDF, the classical postal way as well. All formats have to be integrated. And a special feature is the agency business with Agravis. What does it mean? Customers of Agravis will directly order with the supplier. The supplier sent an invoice to Agravis. Agravis doesn't know that something has been delivered to the customer. It's only with the invoice getting in, and this invoice has to be put through the system so that the customer gets the invoice at the end. Machine learning is a wonderful example. If, for example, invoice says we charge you window cleaning services, I'm really happy if the system writes the right account into that service. Automated invoice generation and then mobile clearance wherever the staff member is traveling, for example, he or she should be in a position to release an invoice. Now, what we see here, the Wirtschaftswoche in 2019 wrote, what are the drivers for digitalization? Number one, love for the detail. Let us enter into the details. We are amongst ourselves. Reading in, downloading new invoices. This is obvious. If I go the electronic way, it's happening automatically. Reading out invoice data. Let's enter into detail here. Account allocation of incoming invoices. This is a very nice example. A bad analog process will always be a bad digital process. If you've not got the right information, if it doesn't work analog, it will not work digitally either. So you have to make sure that all the pieces of information are included in invoice, all the information you need in the right quality. Then verification of the invoice, and if everything is included in the invoice, order number, merchandise received, clearance of merchandise, etc. This invoice should be automatically run through a validation process, and then automated clearance should happen, and at the end, the invoice should be entered in the system. Right, reading out invoice data. What do you want to achieve by way of automation? At the end of the day, an invoice should not be touched anymore. Well, in the document reader invoice, we have a situation where data are to be read out automatically. The basis for the reading out is a generic recognition. What does the generic recognition do? It tries to use logic that are defaulted in order to recognize what kind of information is necessary for the invoice to be processed. It's gross and net amounts, it's taxes, it's invoice number, invoice date, the supplier, and also the account number. So the generic recognition in Agravis manages to handle 50% of it. All the information on invoice is read out without any further training. So you check in the PDF, and at the end you get the read out information, which you can further process in SP. Now, not all pieces of information can be directly recognized. For example, the invoice number is not recognized or is read out at the wrong place. Some invoices look a bit bizarre. Then there's the auto trainer. With the auto trainer, the user gets an invoice if something is not really properly read out, and the user has to say where the invoice number can be found. And if the user has done it 3 times, the system will remember 3 times, because you would then assume it's not a mistake and should be proper after 3 runs. And after 3 times, you would assume that this is the position where the invoice number should be placed. And then the system will remember it. Comes in the 4th invoice, and the system will correctly read out this information. A major part, almost 1/4 of all invoices in Agravis is handled by Sugfert. I think Sugfert is known. XML, which is embedded in PDF. It is no longer necessary to read out things. I just take the invoice number and I retrieve it directly from the XML where the supplier thought it would be correctly positioned. So testing, trying to recognize something is no longer necessary. I can directly read out. And the last part is the special training. If I've got suppliers who handle a lot of volumes where the invoices are never recognized or wrongly recognized, I have the option to train the system. I take a PDF and tell the PDF, exactly at these positions you find the values you need to read out. You can define rules in order to tell the system where the values can be recognized. It is not that complicated, this special training. And very often the customers do it. In this case, Matthias is doing it in Agravis. After a short training, personal training, he was able to train the system. And this is how almost 100% of invoices are now automatically read out.
Der Autotrainer ist ziemlich gut.
The auto trainer is really great. Cool.
Der Projektplan.
Now, project plan.
Wir waren straff unterwegs im November.
It was a tight program. In November 2019, we had an internal meeting in our preparation group, and we said we need a new electronic invoice processing. The old system we used, well, is obsolete. In November 2019, we said on the 16th of November 2020, we will have our go-live. So we sat down, wrote down our requirements and requests. We said what we needed, what we wanted. We wrote to different providers and collected their documents, and then we said, what's going on now? We had Corona. Whatever we planned was just dust, and we had to think anew. How can we proceed? Telephone conferences, team meetings, Zoom, etc. Everything was new. We got ourselves organized, and we were able to continue normal work, basically, within the team. With a request for proposal, we ended up with d.velop as our candidate, and in May 2020, we started project work with them. Now, it's quite funny. Sven and myself are meeting in person for the very first time. We've been working together since last year, but we've never met in person. No, we've always had video conferences, so quite nice. So that's how it started. We got together for hours, days, weeks, months. We described what we needed, and d.velop asked us what else we needed, and then the first prototype was sent. We made the tests, and we said what was good, what was bad. Then the second prototype was developed. We tested it again, and in fact, we managed on the 16th of November 2020 to go live in a big bang. 1,400 users were switched to a new system overnight, basically. What's funny was the question, how do we train all these people? Because we're living in times of Corona. So what did we do? We wrote manuals. We had Teams meetings, explained that, had small videos posted on Instagram. What do we need? How do we approve and clear an invoice, etc.? And this is how we managed. Now, what we can't see here, the two of us are the faces in front, but in the background we had so many people who supported us, who helped us to find our way through, and we would like to thank all these people. We would not have been able to manage it without them. I'm standing here and talking in a rather casual way, but it was not motherhood and apple pie, the whole process. During the project, we had diverging views. We did not always agree, but we always managed to have the feeling that we can manage. We will not fail. And according to Sepp Herberger, after the go-live is before the go-live. Soon the next go-live will take place. The full SAP liner will be going live, and we'll be on board once again. So we'll stay tuned and go for it. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.